Hello and welcome everyone to day one of Southeast Asia DeFi Week. It is exactly 3 p.m. right now, and we're going to get started immediately. Right now, I am broadcasting live from Asia Blockchain Center, which is a newly established blockchain hub right in the heart of KL. The first people I'd like to thank, is for them for setting up this really good place for us to broadcast, this entire weeks of events. They have over 100,000 square feet, of uh, office space across 12 rooms. They have a very ambitious goal of making this a new blockchain hub for entrepreneurs, innovators, and developers as well. Uh, Also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to all our friends and our partners who have helped us to drive awareness, to Southeast Asia DeFi Week. This time round, we did this once back in June, and this time round we have even more friends, on board. We have our friends from the Philippines, we have our friends from Vietnam. This time we have our friends from Thailand as well. Really happy. You're going to get to know each and every one of them, throughout the entire week. We're going to give a shout out to every one of them. um Now, and the reason why we are doing this, is right now DeFi is growing very fast. um right now, we have seen tremendous amount of turnaround since, as early as just only March, which is only 6 months, less than 6 months ago, when the total value locked in DeFi is 500 million, and within a few months it recovered, and there was $1 billion, dollars in total value in DeFi. Very short time after that, it grew to 2 billion. Um, Recently, it hit 4 billion, and that was the time, when I, set up, the event, and then I put it there. But then within a few days later, DeFi, just went parabolic, and it hit $8 billion, and just this morning, it went up again, hit new record highs. Now, despite all this, parabolic growth, what's one of the things, that we hope, over the next 7 days, when you listen in, and you learn about DeFi, here are certain things that you must know. DeFi is still a place very much, that we're dealing with uncharted territory and uncharted waters. A lot of the projects that are in the DeFi space is less than 3 to 5 years old. So a lot of the experiments can only be considered in alpha stage. So there's still a lot of high risk and uncertainties in the space. Also, when something like this happens, very often, it will start to attract bad actors into the space. So I predict that DeFi scams are going to be very rampant. Um, so here's a disclaimer. Same thing. None of the content, shared throughout Southeast Asia DeFi Week should be treated as financial advice. Please understand, that there's a lot of things, factors. Um, so you need to bear your own responsibility and risk. We do this, to bring you education, to keep you informed, to so that what is between what is real, what is fake. Our goals, of doing this is to help more people to come into DeFi, by providing a safe environment, where it's neutral and people can learn, DeFi easily. Help you to differentiate between what is real, what is fake, what is legit, what is full of non-legit, so that you can capture real opportunities and help you find remote work, and also possibly generate a new source of income in the industry, particularly right now, in the uh, this very unique situation that we are all in during the coronavirus pandemic, when a lot of people's jobs and salaries are at risk. One industry that is actually growing rapidly, as we have just shown, is and hungry for talented people who can contribute positively to the space, is the cryptocurrency slash blockchain industry. So by having you getting access to the right kind of information, and you are able to carry out much more mature levels of conversations, then we Southeast Asia would become a very attractive destination for reputable projects to come and find local user adopters, fans, and champions. So, what is DeFi? In the first place, DeFi is short for decentralized finance. And the simplest way that I can give a quick definition to DeFi, it's basically the emergence of financial products, that you can use, but without needing intermediaries. So that is the shortest version. And over the next 7 days, if you don't understand what that means, that's okay. All right. That's the reason why we conduct this entire week. And over the next 7 days, we are so happy and grateful that we are able to bring in really the best, and leading DeFi projects and their founders, that we can to learn from, and we can understand, what DeFi actually is and has to offer. So we're going to talk, about money market protocols. We're going to talk about decentralized exchanges. We're going to talk about yield farming, yield hacking. We're going to talk about aggregator. And what I'm really happy about is that I think that we are really, really blessed. Something just seems to just work because the availability, of the way that we managed to structure this. Today we're going to be talking about money market protocols. We're going to talk about something really, really simple, something easy to understand, and over the next few days, then it becomes a little bit more advanced topics. So this the the end goal that we would like this entire series to be is something where you, as a beginner, can actually watch, rewatch, this first video, and then like a series. All right. And this would help, to reduce, and chart at least a good starting point for people to get to know about DeFi. And that's the goal, of Southeast Asia DeFi Week. So I hope that you will gain a lot, over the next 7 days, as we um as we what's that share the content with you. So do stay till the end, because we also have prizes and giveaways, throughout the week. For today, we are giving out, um, an interest-bearing cryptocurrency stablecoin called Aave. So to the people who give out the top 10 best questions. So of all the questions that you're going to ask, the speakers today, we're going to ask, the speakers to pick what are the 10 best, and then we'll announce the winners, and you get a chance, to win, 20 ADI in this session. All right. So the first one that we're going to talk. So today we're going to feature Compound and Aave. So the first hour, really, really happy, that we managed to invite the founder of this uh, project. Now, first and foremost, what is Compound? So Compound is a money market protocol. What does that mean? Basically, in simple terms, it is a place where you can borrow and lend assets. An example here, this is the interface. This is what happens when you visit compound.finance. You can see, that there is this protocol. Basically, people can use this protocol to lend idle cryptocurrency assets, and people who need financing, have a place where they can also borrow assets. So you could see here, that there's Compound today has $1.8 billion of money lenders, and $1 billion of borrowings, which is really, really um, amazing. Um, and an example here, is like, for example, if you have idle cryptocurrency assets like DAI, for example, you can interact, okay, with Compound, and you can lend it out, okay, at 3.7% today, and people who want to borrow DAI, okay, can borrow that asset, okay, at 4.85%. And one of the interesting things about Compound is that all this happens automatically. The interest rate is determined uh, algorithmically based on supply and demand. So this is just one example, okay, of uh, a DeFi, because DeFi is an extension, okay, of what we are able to do with cryptocurrencies. In the past, cryptocurrencies uh, we can we can receive and we can spend it, but thanks to protocols like Compound, we are now able to do more. You're able to lend. So we are so happy, okay, that we are able to uh, invite the founder, okay, of Compound, Robert Leshner. He is here with us right now. I know that right now it is midnight over there in where you are. Okay, thank you so much, okay, for being here with us today. Robert, are you there?
Yes, it's great to be here at Southeast Asia DeFi Week.
Right. So the first thing, okay, I like to um, say to you, Robert, is that I want to. I feel very embarrassed because, quite frankly, I only got to know about Compound also quite recently when you launched, okay, the governance token, okay, back in June 15. Um, and but when that happened, okay, I got to see, that was probably the first time, okay, I actually saw, okay, a lending protocol in action, and something just clicked. And I think a lot of people also experience that as well. And I'm so happy, okay, to see the parabolic growth that you guys have. Before you launch your governance token, I think you had about 100 million, okay, locked in Compound, and now it has grown to $1.8 billion. So my first question to you, Robert, is how do you feel? Okay, what is the headspace that you're having right now? Do you do secret fist bumps every morning? Okay, um, how do you handle, okay, this parabolic growth? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so we feel relatively relaxed, and the reason is we've been building Compound for years. Compound, isn't a new project. We started work on it in 2017, and we launched the project in 2018. And for the last 3 years, it's been a nonstop process of building, improving, testing and experimenting. And so, for us, it's been a lot of hard work to get to this point. So we feel good that, there's starting to be more visibility, both on DeFi as a new industry and on Compound as, one of the top projects that's helped create DeFi. And we're just excited to see where it goes next.
So that's the thing, a lot of people, especially in Southeast Asia, when I speak to them, they think that DeFi is this thing, okay, which is an overnight success, right? Okay, and now that Compound is seen as this shiny object, okay, of success, um, a lot of people don't actually know, okay, that you've been around for, like you said, okay, since 2017. In one particular interview that I actually saw, you mentioned, okay, that there are actually three versions of Compound before the current version. Can you please share that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Compound is the third version of an open, transparent marketplace for people to earn interest and borrow crypto assets. So there was a first version that we released in order to test the security of the code base, to test the idea, and to prove out whether even the concept of earning interest and borrowing crypto assets was feasible. Because a lot of this is extremely experimental and new technology, as you mentioned early on. And that was really just used for testing. We then released, what we determined was the first production version to real users with real assets and real money. And that occurred in September of 2018. So it's basically 2 years ago today. And we had a first version which, we thought was worthy of the world to be able to use. And that ran for approximately a year before we released the final version of Compound about 1 year ago. And in that version, there's many improvements to make, the process of earning an interest rate, borrowing crypto assets, or building interest rates into another application or into another product or financial service as easy as possible. And that version was really the third version of protocol that we launched. And so you can see that there's a lot of steps that go into making a product safe and useful.
Okay. So one of the things, okay, that that is very new to a lot of people, and I got a question here from Umair from Malaysia, and one of the things that is different with DeFi is that in the case of this example here, where let me load up the screen. That, like, for example, okay, if people want to borrow from the protocol, so here there's $1.1 billion of borrowings. Okay. One of the things that's different is that people need to collateralize, over collateralize, need to put in more money in order to borrow money. Okay. So one of the things a lot of Asians, and I don't know, do you get this question a lot? Okay, that why do people need to put in money in order to borrow money? Why would people borrow money if they already have money? Do you get this question a lot?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple pieces to this. So the first one is, this is what enables Compound to be so efficient. So instead of understanding who you are, knowing your identity, knowing your history, knowing whether or not the protocol can trust you, Compound is basically a computer program running on a blockchain. The way it works is it doesn't have to know anything about you as an individual. It just has to know how much assets you can bring to the protocol in order to allow you to borrow. And so it relies on collateral. It doesn't require anything else. It's able to, essentially make decisions to give you assets instantaneously, and everything is determined in the logic of the program. And it doesn't, take a traditional approach to borrowing. The second is that you are providing one asset and borrowing a different asset. So you're never borrowing the same asset as what you're providing as collateral. If you look in the existing financial system, oftentimes people have a house as collateral and they borrow local currency.
Yep.
Or they, have a car as collateral and they borrow a local currency. In Compound, it's no different. People have one asset they use as collateral. Let's say Ether is a popular asset, and they borrow another asset, typically a stablecoin. And, in this way, they're able to draw liquidity and usefulness out of assets that they don't want to sell, to get more resources, to continue to, do anything they'd like, whether it's buy more assets, whether it's, take money, outside of crypto, whether it's, build a complicated financial position. It gives people a lot of flexibility. And that's enabled by, this collateral in the protocol.
So so people need to put in, okay, collateral. Okay, that actually makes the I can see how that works. So what basically happens is that this is an important feature so that the protocol will always be solvent. Is that correct?
That's right.
And if what happens if, let's say, somebody is under collateralized,
So
has a position and borrowing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So people are required to provide more collateral than what they borrowed. So a great example is you might provide $2 of Ether to borrow $1 of a stable coin. And at a certain point, if the value of your collateral declines, somebody in the ecosystem will repay what you borrowed on your behalf, and some of your collateral is transferred to them. And what this means is that the protocol and the markets that we've created always has more assets backing what's been borrowed than the value of what's outstanding. So, you can always feel, comfortable knowing that the protocol is solvent. And all of this information is transparent on a blockchain. The contracts that comprise the protocol are open source and transparent. All of the data and every historical action that's ever occurred on the protocol is available to be monitored and audited and inspected in real time. And anyone can inspect the health of the system and see that there's more assets backing every borrow um, than the amount that's outstanding. So if you want to provide liquidity to the protocol and assets earn an interest rate, you know that your money's not going into a black hole. You know that if someone's borrowing that they're good for it.
I like it. I like the fact that okay, right now it is we are when people talk okay to people in this space, it's all about trusting okay the computer code, not trusting okay people. So as long as the computer logic is there and it matches, then it just self executes. Is that right?
That's
So
right. Yeah.
so now that's on the one end of compound. That's what users see. Um, but one question is this, okay? What can you explain, okay, why help people to make sense, okay, of why right now we are seeing so much traction? Like, are people really borrowing, okay, to like for example, I see that like really really cool because um, if I wanted to borrow, okay, if I wanted to borrow some, uh, say for example, if I wanted to borrow, say for example, some USDT right now, okay, I there's a way for me to borrow it at say 5.64%, which is really much better than what I can get in the traditional finance space. And I can use it to fund my business or my side gigs and stuff like that. But what is, are people really doing that or are they doing it for something else?
No, I mean, people are really doing that because, they've also been using Compound for exactly that use case for years now. Everyone has their own use case for why they would borrow a crypto asset. As you mentioned, they might use it for a business. They might use it to speculate on crypto, purchase other crypto assets, but they're borrowing, you know, in a way that, they find useful.
Okay. I have another question, okay, from the audience, which is this, is that um, one of the things, okay, that what happens, okay, when there is a flash crash, okay, in the market? Let's say, for example, um, people people collateralize, okay, ETH, and then there's a 50% drop in the ETH price.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we saw this in March of this year that there was, horrific moves in the crypto financial markets. This is why Compound requires excess collateral or more collateral than the value of what someone's borrowing. It's to protect against exactly these declines. And so, each asset on Compound has a different usefulness as collateral in order to borrow other assets. High quality assets like Ether and stablecoins, you can borrow a lot of their value, and riskier collateral like Augur, Basic Attention Token, 0x, Wrapped Bitcoin, all of these other crypto assets have a lower usefulness as collateral, and you're required to have more of it in order to borrow. And so, Compound went through, March of 2020, as well as the last 2 years without ever suffering losses from a flash crash. And it's because the protocol enforces this excess collateralization. When the value of collateral is dropping, then the protocol allows anyone in the community to initiate a liquidation and repay what's been borrowed instantaneously. So the way that it functions is as soon as prices start declining, anyone in the community can start reducing the risk of the protocol, repaying borrowed assets and seizing collateral. It happens very quickly and very efficiently. There's no auctions. It's not like a long, drawn-out process. It just happens instantly. And we find that this has happened extremely effectively.
Okay. I'd like to change and pivot a little bit, okay, to something that you mentioned also in your past interviews, which is that And I think that is very useful for uh, our audience listening in right now, because Southeast Asia has a very rich pool of young people, developer talents who might not currently be developing in crypto or blockchain. So, one of the things that you mentioned is that beyond the surface level of being able to borrow and lend crypto assets, Compound is meant and built for developers. Can you elaborate on that?
So what makes DeFi so interesting is that all of these financial products that are being built are open and available for other applications to interact with. So Compound is a series of smart contracts, and anyone can build their own smart contracts that integrate with Compound or make use of Compound interest rates. So that if you write your own application, and you can move assets into Compound to earn an interest rate, or you can build an application that borrows assets from Compound. And this opens up a huge amount of new use cases for developers to build. We've always imagined Compound to be a system that other intelligent and creative developers anywhere in the world can integrate into their own products. You don't have to build your own, interest rate marketplace and borrow in the marketplace. You can simply tap into Compound. And so, this gives new abilities and powers to developers. It allows you
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's kind of like and for me that kind of like really clicks, because in the past when you want to develop something, you need to get permission. You're worried about you're infringing in somebody's intellectual properties, but that is absent. Is it absent in this space?
Yeah, and it's different in this space, right? So I think a lot of the intent is to build things that other teams can tap into and leverage in new ways. And Compound specifically is, both battle tested, financial markets, as well as it's well documented and it's open source. And so at this point, we're really excited when we see people sort of use Compound in new ways.
Can I ask, okay, as in your journey, okay, because this is to me, it's such a rare opportunity, right? When as you're building, okay, this product, okay, over the last 3 years, what has been the attitude, okay, of centralized or of CFI, traditional finance, okay, people from the traditional finance towards what you are building?
Yeah, so I think a lot of traditional financial players are really just now starting to become aware of DeFi and how useful and powerful it can be. So take something as simple as what Compound is doing. We're creating a market for someone to earn interest and a market for someone to borrow assets. This exists in traditional financial markets. It's not a new concept, right? It exists in, centralized crypto businesses. A lot of businesses have been built to create, interest rates and borrow cryptocurrency that aren't even built on blockchains, right? They might use crypto assets, but they're basically run with spreadsheets and databases. What we've done at Compound is we've been taking this concept of, earning an interest rate or borrowing an asset, and the entire thing is run using smart contracts on a blockchain. And that's the real innovation. So we're still doing things that already exist. And so I think now you're starting to see, older versions of this taking notice of DeFi, seeing how fast and transparent and efficient it is, how it's open to anyone in the world, and how it's growing very quickly. And they're starting to become very interested. For the first time, I think a lot of CFI businesses are waking up to the idea that smart contracts on a blockchain are a great way to build a business and a product. And I think we're going to start to see more experimentation from CFI businesses to integrate DeFi products.
So right now in Southeast Asia, okay, I think that this applies the same to Malaysia, Philippines. I'm not so sure about Vietnam. Somebody in the group can probably comment on that. And Thailand. The governments have started to regulate cryptocurrencies, and now we have regulated cryptocurrency exchanges. I overheard, okay, in one of your interviews that there is a use case where centralized exchanges can tap into Compound, okay. Um, can you, am I wrong in this, or can you elaborate on that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so Compound is a protocol that at this point runs entirely on its own, just like Bitcoin is a protocol that runs entirely on its own. And so at this point, just like exchanges can, integrate Bitcoin, services into their exchange, we're getting to the point now where exchanges, if they so choose, can integrate Compound or smart contracts like it into their own products and services. And we think this is really powerful.
So they can offer their customers the ability, okay, to benefit from interest market rates.
That's right. And we think that this is going to increase in frequency.
How does the process actually start for something like that? Do they have to? So here's the thing. I think this is the fundamental mind shift that needs to happen, and a lot of people struggle to come into when they come into this decentralized space, which is they think that there is a company behind, okay, that they need to talk to, right? However, in Compound's case, can you share with us, okay, Compound started as a company, right? And now it looks different.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to use Bitcoin as the clearest analogy. So no one knows exactly who Satoshi was, but everyone knows that Satoshi created the Bitcoin blockchain. And then after that, it runs without Satoshi, right? A lot of people, like Bitcoin because they know, oh, it's a very simple, currency that runs on a blockchain. Compound, the protocol, it's similar to Bitcoin in that it's a system that runs on a blockchain. Instead of it being a currency, it's a market, to borrow and earn an interest rate, and it runs on a blockchain. And instead of it being built by an anonymous developer, it was built by a non-anonymous team of developers. So, it was a company that, raised its hand and identified itself and built this system. Since then, once it's up and running, the original developer doesn't matter anymore, right? So it's no longer working on the Bitcoin code. Just like Compound has now created this protocol that's running on a blockchain, and it's now running on its own. So, just like any exchange can integrate Bitcoin or, allow people to send and receive it, at this point, anyone can, interact with the Compound protocol without talking to the original developer. No one has to talk to Satoshi to use Bitcoin. And just like no one has to talk to the original developers of the Compound protocol in order to use the Compound protocol.
So is that what is that what Com token is? Is that what Com token is? It's basically a token that is giving community ownership, okay, to basically the users.
That's exactly right. So that's exactly right. So one of the last things we did in order to, hand off control to the community is, we created a token called Cloud Governance Token in order to allow the users and the community to make upgrades to the protocol. It's really, a mechanism by which people can debate code changes to the way that it works. With Bitcoin, there's a whole process of Bitcoin improvement proposals and a core development team. And, there's a lot of community, process around how does the Bitcoin protocol change. With Compound, the same exact steps happen, where there's, a shared repository and there's a community, but the way that changes are voted in, it's based on people voting with this token to either approve or reject changes to the protocol.
So the way that I notice how Compound has distributed its governance token is that right now I think the total circulation is about 3 million, but in about 4 years there will be about 4 million new tokens coming into circulation. What do you hope to see? Who do you hope to see actually hold these tokens?
Yeah, so over time, the people that are most passionate about Compound, that understand the economics of it, that have a vision for the future of it, are going to be the ones that own the tokens. And over time, I hope that people that hold governance tokens are the ones that are interested in the future of the protocol, that are interested in the future of DeFi, that are able to take the time to participate in shaping the future roadmap of the project, and that want to steer the project and benefit from its growth.
So here's another question, okay, from I think this is from Pontip from Thailand. Is Compound married to Ethereum? So you are now seen as one of the leaders, okay, in the DeFi space, in the lending protocols, among the lending protocols. However, one of the things, okay, that people tend to be aware of is that being the first mover, okay, would inspire a lot of new people to basically copy, iterate, right? And there are other kinds of emerging blockchains that people can build on, like like Polkadot or Cosmos or Neo, and etc., etc. But Compound decided to build on Ethereum. So I think this is a two-part question. Okay, the first part is, why did Compound choose to build on Ethereum, and is it forever married to Ethereum?
That's a great question. So we started building Compound on Ethereum in 2017, and at the time, there wasn't really any of the blockchain that people were building DeFi applications on. And so since then, we've seen most DeFi applications being built on Ethereum because there's other applications on Ethereum. So a great example is, Ethereum has a decentralized exchange and it has Compound. So a user can borrow from Compound and then trade on a decentralized exchange. Or a developer can build an application that combines both of these into their own application. And so, what we're seeing is more and more DeFi growth on Ethereum because a lot of DeFi already lives there. Any new application can benefit from the ecosystem that's already been built. And so, there's a lot of problems with Ethereum right now. It's expensive. It's slower, than it used to be, for large amounts of transactions. It's
gas fees.
Gas going through the roof. It's extremely expensive. It's problematic how expensive it is. There's a lot of issues right now. There's just a lot more congestion on the blockchain. And so, a lot of people are complaining about it. If it was, faster and cheaper, nobody would ask about other blockchains. But it has this like really powerful community and ecosystem that already exists on it. At this point, we have the choice to build on any and every blockchain, but until there's a lot of assets on that blockchain, a lot of different tokens and currencies, and resources that could go inside a market like Compound, it doesn't really make sense to leave Ethereum. Obviously, we always have our eyes open if there's a way that we can help the community expand to another blockchain, or if our development team can help expand into another blockchain. That's great. But right now, Ethereum has, a lot of the excitement and market share for DeFi applications.
One Facebook user asked the question, are you aware of the Great China Firewall? This is very random. And would that affect, people from accessing a service protocol like Compound?
So if someone can access the Ethereum blockchain, they can interact with Compound. I am aware of, the Great Firewall. I think it's there, and it does limit a lot of access. There's a lot of workarounds around it that I've heard of. But, really it comes down to whether or not someone can interact with a blockchain. In the most traditional sense, you don't even need an internet connection to interact with a blockchain like Bitcoin or Ethereum. You can sign a message. It can get relayed, without even an internet connection at all. It's not easy. It's horrible. It's even more, time consuming. But as long as you can, sign a message with a private key, you can interact with the blockchain, which means theoretically, no matter how bad internet connections are, you can still interact with a blockchain. You can still interact with Ethereum and you can still interact with Compound. And that's very different from a centralized service where if you can't get to their website, you can't interact with them. The government can easily shut down a centralized service. No government can really shut down the Ethereum blockchain. And so Compound will always be accessible. It might not be easy to access. If there's, a firewall or something restricting you from accessing the internet in the way you want, it might be harder to interact with the Ethereum blockchain. But no matter what, you can always interact with it.
There's one question, okay, from the audience, which is on the next steps. Okay, so once Compound becomes, decentralized, now that who's going to be developing, okay, or funding the development of Compound? Where does the money come from to continue and sustainably grow Compound?
Well, I'll start with the first piece of that, which is where does the development come from? So it's at the point where anyone in the community can write an upgrade to the protocol. Instead of it being restricted to a core team of people able to write upgrades and improvements to the protocol, anyone in the community can. Over the last couple months, we've seen a number of members of our community creating new contracts, upgrades to contracts, and changes, and having them integrate and actually improving the way that Compound works. A lot of the growth over the last couple months is, thanks to some of the new improvements that came from the community. People that were not affiliated with our team making their own changes to the code. Not because they were compensated, but because they wanted to see Compound evolve in some way. And so long term, there's a lot of ways for people to feel incentivized to improve the protocol. The protocol generates reserves, which is like a portion of interest set aside for use by, the governance system and, the protocol itself. Developers could be, paid by the reserves of the protocol. It's possible that allocate some of the limited supply of comp to developers to make improvements. And it's possible that the community rallies around a grants program or something different. It's still very early. Right now, a lot of work is being done for free out of people that are aligned with the success of Compound and want to see it change. I talked before about developers building their own applications and own contracts on top of Compound. If Compound can change to make it easier for developers or applications that exist, they can propose upgrades. We've seen a wallet, built on top of Compound, making quite a few changes to the way that Compound works. It's really exciting. And I think over time, the best developers for it are going to be the wallets and applications and exchanges that make use of this new market.
So we have a question, okay, from the audience, from Chengyi Wong. Okay, he is, I think he's from Malaysia as well, or Singapore. So he asks, what would be the new tokens, okay, that can be, people can lend and borrow on the protocol? Currently, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 tokens that people can supply and they can lend and borrow on Compound. Are there any new tokens that what do you call it? It's called a DAO, is it? Would you describe Compound as a DAO now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't use the term DAO simply because there's a connotation from the first DAO on Ethereum. Going back quite a few years, there was a DAO on Ethereum called the DAO. It raised a lot of money and it had a bug in the logic and it imploded. One of the first disasters on Ethereum. It's what caused the fork between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And so, I don't really think of Compound as a decentralized autonomous organization. I really think about it as a community of different stakeholders who, have the ability to upgrade the protocol. And so, really all of these decisions about which assets to add, what's the process for adding them, are really up to the community. It's not up to me anymore, which is probably a good thing because, I don't know as many assets as the community knows. But really it's up to the community to, one, select the assets they want to add, and two, really check them for quality and do the sort of like, development steps to add them into the protocol. It's not hard, but it really requires, some good judgment on the part of the community for what they'd like to see. One of the things that's always been nice about Compound, in my opinion, is that it's a smaller list of assets. And it's because, I think, with too many assets, it's possible that like the quality of the project declines if there's, too many things there. And so it's really up to the community going forward. I'm excited to see which assets are added and how and when and why.
So what do you see your role as nowadays, Robert? Are you still okay? You are the founder of Compound, but are you still CEO of Compound?
Yeah, so the company that originally built Compound is called Compound Labs. We were the team of the developers who wrote the code and built it. So I'm still the CEO of this company. We're really a development company. We're going to be building new products and software. Some of it might make use of the Compound protocol, just like any application developer can build on top of the protocol. And we're continuing to build software. But at this point, I really see myself as a champion for all of DeFi and a champion for the protocol. But, I see, my role is, helping to steer this development company into launching a new product in the future.
So I want to maybe pose, we like less than 10 minutes left. I just want to pose, a very interesting, starting to get interesting right now. Because I want to, this one's just me, I want to pry your thoughts a little bit. So there's a lot of this saying, I've seen a lot of DAOs. I know that DAOs haven't been around for like a long time, but I have participated in a number of them. And very often my experience is that a lot of DAOs fail very quickly because there is no leadership. It very easily becomes a noisy village kind of like neighborhood meeting. You get what I mean, right? And is that a risk, for Compound now that it is decentralized?
It's a risk with every project. We did a lot of things in designing the governance system with this in mind. So, in a lot of systems, you either have one person, one vote, or you have one token, one vote, or $1 invested, one vote. You have all these approaches. And that doesn't always correlate with the best ideas winning or the smartest people having the most say. So one of the things that's different about the Compound governance process is anyone can delegate their votes or transfer their votes to anybody else while holding on to their comp tokens and their ownership. And this allows smart people, regardless of how much they own, to receive the support of the community and to help have a louder voice in making decisions. And what we've seen is that, a lot of this decision making so far in the earliest days of this experiment are concentrating in, some of the smartest members of the community who are driving it forward. And in this way, you can have tens of thousands of, comp token holders who can join together and pick which people they want to represent them. It doesn't have to be an extremely, noisy village. It can be, an excited village with, stakeholders elected by the community and the villagers, while still giving an opportunity for everyone to, participate themselves. But, over time, we think there's going to be leaders emerging from the community itself.
Okay, so I think a lot of people have been asking this question. I think I have to ask it across. What is your opinion, of yield farming? Because a lot of people are yield hacking, yield farming, all right, and it appears like this market is growing into a very, very overblown speculator market. Is this healthy?
That's a great question.
Not the first one.
Yeah. So, when we started distributing the comp token to our users, there wasn't even this phrase yield farm. We, in essence, accidentally, created this phenomenon that we didn't anticipate. To be honest, we had no idea that this is what the result would be. We expected that.
Robert, here's the thing. Okay, a lot of people think, okay, that you guys knew what's going to happen, and you guys are now like popping champagnes, buying Lambos and whatnot. So I'm so happy, okay, that what's that you can join us and share with us, okay, what's actually happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it was an experiment, right? So a lot of things in DeFi are experiments. A lot of things in economics are experiments. A lot of things, you have to do for the first time, and you don't know the result. We began distributing tokens to users, and we didn't really know if there would be, value perceived in the comp token. We didn't know, how people would react. We were definitely surprised by sort of how this has captured people's, mind share and attention, and kicked off so many more activities. And so, it's funny that yield farming is now a phrase. That phrase didn't exist 2 months ago. It'll be great to see, how these experiments among many different DeFi projects continue. I think, it's definitely building a lot of visibility for DeFi as an ecosystem, which is positive and negative. It's positive because a lot of people are aware of DeFi that never were, even 6 months ago. It's negative, and you mentioned this at the very beginning, because it's attracting a lot of people with the mindset of, trying to get rich quickly without really taking the time to understand the projects involved, the risks, the downsides, etc. And I think, while the first projects like Compound, are built on extremely solid foundations that have been built over years, that have, a very, conservative approach to building these, systems. I think a lot of projects are going to come into the space to take advantage of this, excitement around yield farming, promising, too good to be true returns, and eventually something's going to go wrong. Either technical risks in the contracts and the code, or scams. We've already seen a number of exit scams with projects, created, and then attracting users in hours and then exiting hours later. There's going to be a lot of problems, and I think yield farming will do just as much harm as it does good in attracting people to DeFi and the genuine project that exists.
All right. One last question. The questions are now like trickling in like really, really, but we only have like 5 minutes left with of your time. Eve 2.0. What are your thoughts? Do you see? Are you looking forward to Eve 2.0? Would it? What's that? What are your thoughts? Okay, on Eve 2.0. Okay. Especially when it regards, okay, would Eve 2.0 really help, okay, reduce gas fees, or is it something which would not solve the problem? As long as that there's really, really high demand for Ethereum, okay, this will always be a problem that never be solved.
So ETH 2.0 will be a massive improvement for things like gas. The downside is it's not happening immediately. It's going to take a while for ETH 2.0. So a lot of people are looking forward to this, both as a solution to congestion on Ethereum and as, a catalyst, in some way for the price of ETH. My message to everyone is don't get too excited. ETH 2.0 is still a long way away. And so, if you want to solve, these high gas prices or congestion on ETH, 1.0, which is where all these DeFi projects are built, there has to be other solutions, and they have to occur soon. Because ETH 2.0 is not going to solve them for the problems we feel today. It'll solve them for the problems we feel in 3 years, in 4 years, but not what's happening right now. And, a lot happens in crypto in a short amount of time. So I am personally very excited for ETH 2.0. But, I'm also looking for other solutions in the short term for a lot of the issues with the Ethereum network.
Okay. Well, that again, thank you so much. Okay, Robert, I know that it's right now 1 a.m. okay, at your time zone right now. Thank you so much for spending your time with the community today, to really bring clarity to a lot of the there's nothing more valuable than actually listening from the founders themselves, okay, who are actually in running these projects. It's very often DeFi so many things happen so quickly in DeFi that it's really, especially when it's decentralized, it's really hard to really know what is real and what is not, okay, without putting a face to it, especially in the DeFi space. Do you agree that things are just moving really, really quickly? It's virtually impossible to follow every single thing that's happening in the space?
It's crazy. It's the whole industry is moving so fast, and that's why I'm really grateful that I was given a chance to speak to Southeast Asia DeFi Week, and help share as much information as I can.
Is there one thing, okay, that you like to maybe just one final thing that you like to just say, okay, to close off, okay, and something that you hope, okay, that the people listening, okay, would basically take away from today?
Yeah. Thank you. I encourage people to be genuinely curious about like the real products being built, not to focus on things that look like they can help you get rich quick, but to focus on things that are like real products getting built, focused on creating a lot of value over the long term. And I think that's where the real value of DeFi lies, is building new things that will be used by a lot of people.
All right. Okay. That's that, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Thank you so much, Robert Leshner, okay, for joining us. I hope that you join us back again. Okay. Have you ever been to Southeast Asia?
I have. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. What's that? Have you tried our local fruit, durian?
I've smelled durian. I have sampled a very small bite of it. It's an acquired taste that I haven't fully acquired yet.
Because there are people commenting in the groups right now saying that we would organize a durian party for you, okay, if you come to Southeast Asia. Yeah. Anyways, again, thank you so much, okay, for joining us today. We hope to see you again, okay, and really the questions keep on coming in. People are curious. People are really, really curious. They're asking about the legalities, okay. Really hope to see you back.
All right. See you soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Robert. I know you got to go. I know it's late, okay. Won't take up much of your time. Thank you so much for being with us. All right. So that is Compound, okay. And Robert Leshner, thank you again so much. Moving on, okay, before we go into the next topic today, I just want to give a shout out, okay, to one of our event partners. Okay, we have so many event partners that make this today's event really, really successful. The first one is CoinGecko. All right, who doesn't love CoinGecko? CoinGecko, okay, for those who don't know, is a really, really useful website. Okay, is a data aggregator for all kinds of cryptocurrency data. Basically, let's see. Let me put it up, okay, for you guys to see. CoinGecko. So CoinGecko, if you visit the website, you can basically see they pull data from all sorts of places and they aggregate them in a very, very clean way. It's as real time as you want it to get. Okay, you can see everything ranked, okay, based on market capitalization, based on 24-hour volume, the latest prices, the markets, where can you buy, trade, etc. They also have a new DeFi page as well. Okay, so do check it out. Okay, which basically ranks, okay, based on the market capitalization, what are the top protocols and how they're doing, what are the developer activity, social activity. And they also have a how to DeFi book available on the thing. One of the coolest things, okay, if you don't know about CoinGecko, is that you can collect a token called candies. Okay, it's not a cryptocurrency token, right? But you can collect these tokens and you can then use these tokens to redeem rewards like their How to DeFi book. I'm almost there. I'm 30 candies away from redeeming, okay, my How to DeFi book. So do check out, okay, CoinGecko.com. Right now, let's move on, okay, to the next speaker. Okay, today we are talking about money market protocols. We just had Robert Leshner from Compound. The second, okay, protocol that we'd like to talk about today is oops. The second protocol that we're going to talk about today is Aave. So what is Aave? All right, Aave, let me just very quickly give a quick recap. We invited Aave to present the first time we did Southeast Asia DeFi Week back in June. And we had Stani Kuleshov, the founder, with us. He asked me to put in my password. Okay, hopefully none of you can see what that is, right? Go into the dashboard. So Aave is also a money market protocol. You can deposit your idle cryptocurrency assets in Aave to earn interest, okay, on your cryptocurrency address, on your assets. Now, they have DAI, USDC, True USD. One of the beautiful things, okay, that Aave has, okay, that is very interesting is that if you want to borrow from Aave, you can borrow either on a variable interest rate or a stable interest rate, which is a very, very cool feature that, you know, a lot of us actually would find very, very useful. There are so many other things, okay, happening on Aave. It is insane, okay? But again, I'm like really, really happy that we have managed to invite back Stani Kuleshov, all right, okay, from Aave. He is here right now. Thank you, Stani. Welcome back, okay, to Southeast Asia DeFi Week.
Hey, Jason. nice to be here back. It's been a while, not that long time, but really happy.
It feels like a long time ago, doesn't it, Stani?
Yeah, it seems like 1 week in DeFi is like 1 year in somewhere else. So
because the last time you were here, I still have the screenshot for this, okay? The total amount of the total value locked in Aave at that time was 80 million. And I remember asking you the question, you know, when you started back in January, what was considered, you know, like success? And you said that, oh, we will be happy with 10 million. Today, okay, there's 655 million, okay, locked into Aave. How are you feeling, and how do you keep yourself? How do you manage this? What's the headspace you're having for?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question because all that amount of kind of like locked value, it really brings more responsibility in terms of like how we develop our protocol and what will be the next steps. And I guess like it boils down to the fact that people use Aave, they like it, and also we need to kind of ensure that we provide the best user experience and also the best practices to securing the funds, and that's kind of like how we feel today.
So I want to ask, okay, to take off on a few things, okay. So because some people, we're doing this bigger, and right now we're involving more countries from Southeast Asia as well. So a lot of people might not be familiar with what additional things Aave has to offer. Okay, one of the things, okay, that there are two things, okay, that you shared the last time you were here. The first one was the interest-bearing DAI, okay,
Yeah.
and the second one was flash loans. Can we talk about the interest-bearing DAI very quickly first, so that you know those who are just listening in and being introduced to Aave for the first time will understand what this is?
Yeah, definitely, Jason. So what's interesting about the interest-bearing ADAI or AUSDC, we call them basically A tokens, is that when you deposit stablecoins into the Aave protocol, you get in return a interest-bearing stablecoin. In that sense, for example, if you deposit DAI, you get a DAI. So the A tokens, they're always 101 ratio with whatever underlying you're depositing into the protocol. And what's interesting there is that those A tokens will represent your balance in the protocol. And we basically programmed the A tokens in a way that that balances that you have in Aave will algorithmically update in your wallet where you're storing the A tokens. And that's like a very cool thing, because it means that you don't have to go to the protocol to basically see how much you're earning or what's your current balance. And also it allows basically you to not even interact with the protocol when you want to have this kind of like a interest-bearing position. You can just go into a market and buy a DAI or buy a USDC. And what that basically means that once you have purchased it, you basically have the interest-bearing account. And that's pretty interesting, especially if you are in a country where the local currency has a substantial inflation, or you kind of like trust less the banking system, or you don't have the accessibility to higher yield savings accounts. So that's like a pretty interesting thing, especially in Southeast Asia. That could be the situation. And just by buying a DAI, you basically have this interest-bearing account, and you can also natively redirect that interest to any place you want. For example, you can split the interest, well, not split, but basically you can redirect it to another person, for example, your friend or your family member. So it's actually like a pretty cool feature in Aave.
It is. I got myself, 100. I put 100 DAI. Okay, since the last time we met, okay, back in June, I put my 100 DAI into Aave, and I already earned 2%. Okay, in the last 3 months. Okay,
Oh, nice.
Just by having a balance. Okay, this is what it looks like, and it is actually updating on real time. The question is that how is this possible? Because I think one person in the group chat is asking, okay, that doesn't every single time when you want to send money or interest to one wallet, it would need to incur transaction fees. How is this possible with Aave? Okay, that people can accrue interest automatically. What is the genius? Okay, what sorcery, what magic is responsible for this?
That's actually right. A good word, the magic, because it's not the typical way of kind of like has not been the typical way of programming things on Ethereum. And in that sense, like Aave, we always try to focus on innovation and finding new ways to build things and kind of like expand boundaries. And this is one of the things that we have done when we launched the A tokens. Pretty much kind of like it was such a new thing that in the way that they were kind of like showing how you basically develop in Ethereum, that it kind of like a lot of people were thinking like how is that possible? And it's pretty simple, because we basically have a smart contract code in the A tokens, which kind of calculates the interest or the balance based on the interest rate formula that we have in the protocol. And when the balances are called by so it doesn't need a actual transaction on Ethereum, just a basic call. It updates the user balance based on the algorithm that we have in the A tokens, that is using the interest rate formula algorithms in the Aave protocol. So in essence, what happens in behind scenes? So if you store A tokens in a wallet, is that the wallet automatically calls different balances. For example, your ETH balance, and periodically, maybe every 5 seconds, every second, every 10 seconds, depending on the wallet, for example, if it's MetaMask or something else. And during that time, the balance will update. So it's actually it's very simple, but it's really powerful. Basically, one of the things that this kind of changes in terms of like what we have used to do in previously is that it focuses a lot on the end user experience, because you could achieve the very same on the front end, but this is actually achieved in kind of like using the backbone, which is the kind of like a Ethereum side of the code base. So that's like pretty cool thing.
So there's the other thing, okay, that has happened in lightning speed over the last 2 months since we last met, okay, is the traction that flash loans have been getting. So I read, okay, this morning that 138 million US dollars in DeFi flash loans, okay, have been, the amount of flash loans, okay, being used, okay, through Aave has been phenomenal. So for the beginner listening out there, what is a flash loan? A flash loan is the ability to borrow money from Aave, okay, the protocol, from whatever that's available, if you are able to prove that you can pay back that loan within the same transaction, basically 15 seconds within the same Ethereum block. Is that how is that for an introduction to flash loans, Stanley? Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good, Jason. I think like the main thing about flash loans to kind of like keep in mind is that the blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, basically settles transactions every block. So there is a kind of like a block size limit on how many transactions you can stuff into that particular block. And each transaction could have actually nested transactions. So you might have a transaction that says that buy something from Uniswap and sell something in Kyber, which basically could be under same nested transaction. And flash loan is in other ways kind of the same, that you're having a transaction where you have nested transactions of borrow flash loan from Aave, buy token A from Uniswap, sell token A in Kyber, and return the flash loan to Aave. And if you don't return the flash loan back to Aave, all the transactions that you made basically will fail because of they don't reach the finality. And that's how basically we can create under collateralized loans for one Ethereum transaction. And it's really helpful for developers who are creating products for end users. So in other sense, one example might be basically refinancing loans. So if you have a loan, for example, in MakerDAO, so you have printed DAI and collateralized Ether, and you see a lower cost of loan, let's say on Compound in USDC. So what you could actually do, you could take a flash loan and basically in DAI close the MakerDAO, the CDP or the vault, take the ETH, put it into Compound, and take USDC, sell that USDC in Uniswap for DAI, and return the flash loan to Aave. So you did all these transactions kind of in one Ethereum transaction. And what happened there is that you refinanced your debt from DAI to USDC to a lower percentage without returning the DAI yourself. And this is basically a product that you can use via flash loans. So flash loans in general, it's something that end users kind of benefit, and developers are using to build this kind of like beneficial products for them.
So two of the most popular use cases that I have seen, okay, using flash loans right now is basically arbitrage.
Yeah.
Okay. You spot, okay, place A, okay, it's you can buy it at a cheaper rate. Place B, you can sell it at a higher rate. Okay. And if the path between A and B, okay, is of a certain cost, and the margin, okay, is available to pay off the gas fees, you can then get a flash loan, okay, to basically execute the trade and make the difference. That is one of the use cases. A second use case that I think that is really popular right now is liquidation. Earlier, Robert, okay, gave a very clear description of how different it is, okay, in the DeFi space, that when you want to borrow something, okay, you need to put in some collateral first, therefore having some risk of being under collateralized. So one of the things that I saw that's very interesting is people have been using flash loans to liquidate themselves first before that they do that. Are there any other emerging, okay, like use cases that you find interesting that people use for flash loans for?
Yeah, I think the self liquidation is amazing. It's just basically all the liquidations in DeFi more or less are based on some sort of liquidation discounts, which basically means that it's an incentive for liquidators to keep the protocol solvent. And what self-liquidation means is that if you don't have the capital at hand that you borrowed, you still can liquidate yourself with the collateral by using flash loans. And that really brings savings for the end user. So if you can't liquidate and you can't repay the loan for that amount, that particular moment, you can basically self-liquidate and avoid losing part of your collateral as to the liquidators. And I think that is amazing. Anything that helps users to get more value, those are like things that kind of like we embrace a lot. And I think one interesting tool is basically pre-leveraging. So we've seen flash loans being used basically to open a loan position and then subsequently opening a higher kind of like a borrow position with the same currency. It's kind of like very interesting, especially if you're using you're borrowing to leverage up on whatever you have as a collateral. But as a use case, it's slightly speculative or related to the farming. But I think that's like pretty cool.
Right.
I like the use case of collateral swap. That's like super amazing because there's one proof of concept called collateralswap.com. So what they're doing is that you basically when you put something as a collateral, it basically means that you are on long on that asset. So if you use ETH as a collateral and borrow stable coins, it means that you believe that ETH will appreciate in value in the future, and maybe you want to change that position to, let's say, to lend or link or something else. And what happens is that if you have borrowed and you don't want to return the funds because you might be using those stable coins somewhere, what you could actually do is that you could take a flash loan, return the borrowed funds, and then basically, let's say you take you borrowed DAI, so you take DAI flash loan, return the DAI, take the Ether, sell the Ether in Kyber to, for example, lend, put the land as a collateral, and borrow again DAI back and repay the flash loan. Or you could even swap the DAI to USDC. So you could do collateral swap, interest rate swap, and currency swap in the same nested transaction chain, which is which is pretty cool. And you could at some point probably use flash loans also to close your loan with the collateral, so you don't have to return whatever you borrowed, and that's really awesome as well.
Oh wow, collateral swap. Okay, so so there's a couple of things, okay, that has happened really interestingly in the last 2 months since we last met. Okay, I think back then I did not know that much about Aave. You guys were previously Eveland, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Why the change? Okay. What's wrong with Eveland uh, why okay are you now changing the Len token into Aave token?
Good question. I mean, Eatland started as a community project. Basically, we just wanted to do one complex financial transaction, basically a loan transaction on Ethereum. We built the smart contracts. We deployed to testnet and later to mainnet, and we kind of we were the first lending protocol on Ethereum. Basically, kind of like started the first over collateralized lending, kind of like I would
Early
say,
2017.
yeah. And what was interesting there is that the whole project was very community oriented. Most of the people who joined Eatland during the days were from the community, and kind of like the idea was just to do a one-off test and POC and just kind of like forget the whole project. And it started to gain more popularity, and at some point basically we had already like a big community and a nice product out there, and basically we wanted to kind of continue the DeFi narrative a bit, because we were living in a state where stable coins came, liquidity pools came.
Right.
And
Okay. Stablecoins didn't exist back in
yeah,
2017.
they
It was only Omni.
yeah, the only stable coin that existed was Tether, and it was in Omni, so it didn't help. Like the space was very early, like, and we didn't pool risk, so we didn't have any pooled models. All the loans were matched, which is pretty cool in terms of like risk diversification. But the cons there is that basically you create a bit of friction because you need to match the market, which works these days. But when you want to gain more liquidity, you basically want to kind of have ready supply side, and that borrowers can just come and borrow. And basically, we decided that we're going to rebrand and just focus on taking the DeFi narrative where it is today. Well, back then, which is basically locking value, and trying to figure ways how we can unlock value. So if you look at DeFi polls and all of the protocols and the locked value, we kind of see that that locked value is inefficient usage of capital, and the best way of using capital is putting it to work somewhere. And that is why we came with the protocol with the A tokens, where you take the value out of the protocol, kind of like you have this interest-bearing deposit accounts, and then flash loans, and then recently credit delegation. And the idea is just to take that liquidity that is holding in the DeFi space and just reutilizing the value. And that's like what Aave is about, basic innovation to utilize value and bringing capital efficiencies, and that efficiency will basically create more value.
Okay, we have so much more to cover. Okay, because you have done so much. Okay, the next thing, okay, that you have announced that you have launched since we last met is credit delegation. Can you share a little bit, okay, what that is?
Yeah, so credit delegation is really awesome thing. Like, so basically, when you deposit into Aave protocol to earn interest, let's say you deposit DAI to earn, let's say 7%, 5%, whatnot. What credit delegation does, it basically allows you who are just earning from the protocol to delegate your credit line, because whenever you deposit something into Aave, a credit line is opened for you, so you can borrow against your deposit collateral. And what the credit delegation does, it basically allows you to delegate that credit line to someone else that you trust, or to a smart contract, for example.
Right. So if I have say if I have collateral already in Aave, if I wanted to lend it to my brother-in-law, I can do that now with Aave.
Yeah. Yeah,
That is if I want to lend it to my brother-in-law. Okay.
yeah. And the cool part is, of course, like the cool part is that basically to secure the transaction, we use open law, so it's pre-made template for agreement. So you basically can charge more interest or decide not to charge interest, but secure the loan with a legal agreement. And what's interesting there is that you can decide what the person who gets the credit delegation, what they are going to borrow. You can decide that they can borrow ETH, they can borrow WBTC, they can borrow stable coins. It's very interesting. And the second thing what you can do is that you can delegate your credit to a smart contract that has predefined functions. And there could be a smart contract that says that if this smart contract receives funds, once a function is called, these funds are used in somewhere else to do some sort of profit strategy, and that's like the cool part. I think Andre from Wiren is doing some strategies regarding this, so it's pretty interesting. And I probably will see like things like Combo that are doing like this kind of like building Lego blocks and using flash loans and so forth. Probably will see there as well like smart contract based strategy for credit delegation, that you can delegate credit and it goes to some certain activity, and you are comfortable doing that without an actual legal agreement, because you know what kind of functions the smart contract can do. So it could have functions that supply, like delegate credit to a smart contract, and the smart contract supplies those funds into Balancer or Uniswap. So there is like really neat things that you could end up doing actually.
So one of the things, okay, that I think that people want to know as well is how does Aave operate today? Okay, is it similar to Compound? It started as a company, and now is it still a company, or is it like a DAO?
Yeah, so basically we started as a kind of like a project that we basically built, and what we're now doing is that we, as the protocol has substantially grown quite a lot, we noticed that we don't want to have this kind of like responsibility, and we want to get there was always a plan to move into a DAO, but recently with the growth we decided that we actually have to expedite this process and get the governance as quicker as possible into motion. And basically our next step is the token migration, where we're technically upgrading our Lend token to Aave, and also it gives us capabilities for the Aavenomics. Aavenomics is the token economics which are the basis for our token to kind of like secure the protocol and also to have other incentives such as liquidity provider incentives. Well, we call them ecosystem incentives because we have more that we are planning. And the idea is that after before the migration, there will be a vote on migrating, and after the migration happens, we basically transfer the keys of the protocol to the governance, token holder governance, and since that point, basically the governance decides on the upgradability and all the stuff that we have kind of like that otherwise we will decide, and we basically will not need to anymore think about that. But I would say still that it doesn't mean that we are leaving somewhere. Like I don't like the models where when the governance is given to the community and then the team disappears, because I don't believe in that kind of systems. I think like Aave will be one of the stakeholders in the Aave protocol. I mean the team, as a team and individually, everyone, and that's very important that we are there and kind of like help boosting the growth of the protocol. But what it actually means is that it opens doors to other developers, other people to govern and build things. And I think that's the most important thing that you want to have.
Ah, so much is happening, okay, in the DeFi space. I think one of the things, there's also been a lot of like unhealthy news, right? Okay. And you mentioned Andre recently. Some people do not know who Andre is. Let me just basically uh, load up, okay, an article, okay, on Andre recently. And I think that this one is important, okay, because on the, yeah, this one, I'm putting up in the screen. So there have been, like things which are not really healthy, okay, that's happening in the DeFi space. One of that being is that recently this person, okay, I have not met him before, but Andre Cognier created a yield aggregator. Is that correct? Basically, it is a protocol that would uh, observe the chain, identify which lending protocols are providing the best yield, so that it can users can then get basically maximize, okay, their yield. And what happened was he decided, okay, to decentralize, okay. He decided to give, okay, the governance, okay, and decentralize the governance, and then the community basically bite him back. um what are your views on this? Okay, because you in this article you did mention, um, okay, you did mention, okay, that you did said something, okay, that is, uh, you did quote, okay, that Andre loves to build things. He will be back. Okay, he's a DeFi brother. I would like to get your views, okay, as to what are some of the things, okay, that people need to be aware that happen in DeFi space, and what do you consider as healthy and unhealthy behavior?
Yeah, I think like what's very important, more or less, is that people innovate. Like that goes without saying. That I think like the more we're innovating, creating new things, new products, new services, and that basically provides the value added that we can have with DeFi, and that's healthy. And another thing that is important at Aave is that when we build things, we build them as diligently as possible, and keep the security as high as we can basically get it, and use the best practices. And of course, like that's very important. Like basically that when you deploy things on mainnet, you always need to understand that there's going to be people using it and depositing, and I think like the idea of DeFi is to democratize a bit the finance, in the sense that everyone should have equal opportunity to different kinds of interactions, whether they're yields or some other value-added functionality, and that's like what we are trying to do. But at the same time, like if you have quite high yields that are just substantially like more than normally you could yield some from traditional finance or even in DeFi, like those extra yields will always come with that extra risk, and that's something that users need to always bear in mind. So when you're shopping around for DeFi, the healthiness is probably one of the most important arguments, because you want to use products and services from a brand that basically has attached with good due diligence, and kind of like good track record of deploying things into the mainnet, and also kind of like having the security in mind. So I think like yields are fine, but it's just like the more you're earning, the more risk you're taking. It's just the laws of economics, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to overcome them. So that's
So
like
we have,
my take.
all right. Thanks for that, Stani. We have a question from the Philippines, I think. So the question is, okay, so is it possible, okay, that let me put up the question. So a new team can build new smart contracts to interact with Aave, like an instance, for instance, a compound interest contract using Aave through something like Melon Protocol. Do you understand his question, or would you like me to ask him to elaborate?
Yeah. So definitely, the question is about composability. So I think the idea here is to kind of ask that, can you build on top of Aave? And the answer is yes. We have a very substantial documentation on how you build things on Aave, and some example tutorials there as well. And also we have a risk framework that you can basically look on how we measure different kinds of risks, and how you can basically uh, you will see different parameters that we are using. So that's pretty interesting stuff. And what's cool about Aave, because it becomes decentralized in the future, it basically means that others can build also core things alongside with the Aave team. So that's like pretty awesome. And the idea of DeFi is definitely the composability. So you can create something on top of Aave that's using Melon Port, that uses Paraswap, that uses Balancer, and so forth. So those things are definitely possible. And the idea is the innovation. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Like, it's not the blockchain is not about only usage interoperability, but it's actually that allows everyone to build, and that's like democratizing quite a lot of finance, because like anyone can participate on building new things, and that's like that's even more important to me, at least.
Um, uh, Let me ask a question, okay, from the audience, about uh, this one is about, so back on the documentation. Aave has really good documentation. Okay, I've just put the link, okay, into the comment section. So Anthony, okay, you can check them out. All right, it's really cool. Um, the other thing, okay, so there's another question, right? So this one is from, I think, from Thailand. Sorry, this one is from Vietnam. So the question is, okay, about, it's the same question. I think it's a similar question to what we asked Robert earlier. Is Aave married to Ethereum? Because there are so many emerging other uh, chains, like Polkadot, like uh, Cosmos, etc. Um, is if what if someone actually created a money market protocol, okay, on those platforms, uh, and because, okay, was that the transactions are faster, lesser gas fees, and etc. What would happen to Aave? I think that's the question from Vietnam.
That's a very good question. I mean, the gas is quite high at the moment, and like what kind of I don't like about it is that it really reduces the the ability to participate in these protocols. So if you deposit and you spend more gas than you can earn, it doesn't
Yeah.
serve anyone. I mean, it doesn't serve the smaller deposits, which are actually the more important ones. So that's like something that needs to be overcome at some point quite soon.
Mm.
In terms of the other chains, I'm really looking forward to see new things being built. We're constantly looking on different kinds of interoperability solutions, and kind of like I believe that even the DeFi is quite well intact in Ethereum. I still think that liquidity should move from one chain to another, and we probably will see this. I really yeah. Someone said that use Tron, and Tron is pretty interesting. I mean, there isn't like most of the blockchains that are out there. They're pretty. They have their own advantages and other things. Like, they might have different kinds of security consensus. For example, how blocks are sealed, and I think that's a good thing, because those things will be also priced into the yields and functionality of DeFi. So chain with lesser security might have a bit of extra yield in that sense. So yeah, I think that's like the thing. Definitely Polkadot is interesting. Solana is interesting. There's a bunch of stuff that are quite cool at the moment. We're researching them as well. Not sure if we are going to build, but that was something that we keep in mind. There has to be some solutions also for the gas costs and getting them reduced.
So there's one question, okay, about user experience, right? This I can't see the name here, but we agree user experience is very, very crucial for more adoption. Currently, DeFi is predominantly still for nerds with money. Any plans to help non-programmers to onboard the DeFi train? Maybe from the point of view from Aave on this?
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because user experience is definitely something that that kind of like needs to be solved, and I think we have solved it quite well. Like it has been taking a bit time. Like if someone remembers like dApps and back in a couple of years ago, like interacting with decentralized applications was a nightmare, and everything was so new. Like everything was so buggy, and it's just like the interaction is so clunky. And today it's actually easier to use Aave than, for example, Celsius or some of this centralized lenders. It's easier to use Balancer, Uniswap compared to, for example, Binance, and it's getting better in that sense.
You know, that's the thing, Stani. I agree completely. It's just the gas fees.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, the user experience. The reason why I brought this question up. Okay, I highlighted this question on user experience. I kind of feel like the user experience has improved tremendously. Okay. Plus the fact, okay, that DeFi is, as a use case, is getting so much product market fit. The only problem that actually prevents people from experiencing the speed, the ease of use, is because it costs so much money to actually execute a transaction on Ethereum. But if that was put aside, the user experience has improved a lot. And I want, okay, sorry, I can't see who asked the question right now, but do be patient. Over the next 7 days, you will be meeting, okay, other projects as well, which have created massive improvements on user experience. I love Zerion. I love Zapify. I love Instadap. I love what these guys are doing. So look forward to that. Don't miss any of these sessions. Right. So let's see. The one person asked, okay, so Chanel is from Philippines, I think. Okay, are there any plans, okay, to abstract crypto and DeFi away from lending, borrowing? Okay, telling people that they can earn high yields on stable coins is appealing during these times, but I think that there's a high technical barrier to it, in contrast to products like Dharma.
Yeah, I think it's a question also kind of like on ramping. I mean, at Aave we have been thinking this quite long, and we're currently allowing people quite easily to onboard. We're using, for example, Transact, which is a service which allows you to basically buy crypto with bank transfers or debit cards, credit cards. And the idea is that you basically come and you are buying directly A tokens, which is basically A DAI. And just by buying that, with that one transaction, you're going directly from fiat currencies to a global savings account, which then you can store wherever, whichever wallet that you're using, and that's a pretty cool thing. I'm not sure like which all countries it supports, but to a certain extent, it does have like very good global coverage. And I think in the future we'll focus quite a lot of these things. Like we are a protocol in the sense that we are building horizontally in the sense that we have a lot of integrations. We help a lot of developers to build new products for their users in their jurisdictions and regions, and we want to be helping that and making sure that we're good backbone for them, and kind of like even though we have a kind of user dashboard or a client in technical terms, we basically want that there's competing clients that are providing access to the protocol. So like we definitely want to ensure that there is multiple different user experiences to use our protocol, but also we understand that we kind of it takes time to basically have this multiple alternatives ways to participate. Even though that we have now, there's my Ether wallet that you can, for example, use. Many wallets in Asia are supporting Aave, and what's interesting for us is that basically our user interface is allows you to get from fiat quite quickly into A tokens. So that's something that if you are interested and you can try it out if your jurisdiction supports, and that's a nice and family to try things, and basically you get like a lot of steps away from that hurdle and can get quickly into a token based savings account.
I don't know but how to answer this question for you, but one of the people asked, where's Novia?
I think Novia is she's in her home country. She used to be, so some background information. Novia used to be our CMO a couple of years ago, and basically she was quite popular in our community, and especially like we did a lot of work in Facebook as well, and that kind of stuff. She's following the project quite closely, and from time to time I'm in discussions. But that was a interesting question.
Yes,
it seems that people are following like us from like very long time, because you get always like these questions that derive 2 years back and 3 years back, and that's just like that feels so good.
So we have 5 minutes left, okay, together before the session ends. I'd like to give you maybe maybe ask a question for you. You now can like ask something back from the community right now. What does Aave need right now? Can you share with us?
Yeah, I think that's a very good thing. Like definitely one of the things, there's two things we want. Like maybe like if there's any developers building new products for users, that's like new user experience, more tailored user experience in like localized. That's something that we much appreciate and vouch for and try to help. And the second is basically education and adoption. In terms of like DeFi is something that you kind of like can't do DeFi without actually knowing it. I mean, you can do, but you don't get the same benefits if you know what DeFi is and what kind of things relate to it. For example, the non-custodial aspect, that you don't give up custody when you interact with these protocols, and secondly, basically you have permissionless access. There's the transparency of Ethereum, and so forth. So those things are important to understand, because then you understand what DeFi is and what DeFi is not. And because always when you have a lot of traction, like DeFi is now getting, you will have projects that are claiming to be DeFi, but they're not. And it's important to see what is real and what's not. And once you are able to achieve this understanding, it's easier for you to explain to others and kind of like share the education, get more people involved, and that's how we reach more adoption. And we tend to always think that people just don't care much and they will use it, and like if there is like threshold of using things and like becomes difficult. But end of the day, if you look at the current banking system, it's equally difficult, or in some cases more difficult, with logging into your internet bank, confirming transactions, and like all this kind of stuff, and having your devices with you, and depending on the banks. And it's kind of like equally burdensome, but people are doing it. Everyone has a internet bank one way or another. Of course, there is demographic that might not have, but that's something that is decreasing. But the thing is that what I really love is the education. Learn about Aave, learn about DeFi, help us in local areas, help us in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, everywhere. Like, I think kind of like if people know about us, what we're doing, what is DeFi, that will be like a very big kind of like a step forward.
Is there a use case, okay, that you have seen in the DeFi scene that has really inspired you a lot, regarding to, DeFi is about helping, people get access to finance when they don't have any, that maybe some people listening in right now, they can, if you share some stories, okay, they can say that, hey, I want to do that, okay, for my community too.
Definitely.
Is there?
Yeah, I think the kind of one of the coolest things that I think like the most practical thing is the A tokens. Just by being able to be anywhere and hold a USDC or a DAI and earn interest permissionlessly without giving up your custody, that's very, very powerful. That is something that is pretty cool. There's another thing I saw. It's called Abigachi. So it's this kind of like I think they're building some kind of like a NFT collectible game where the more you're earning interest, you are unlocking your Abigachis, and they have properties and basically kind of like traits and variables, and that's like very cool thing that you can build. So you could actually create games that teach people to save, and combining with A tokens and the Abigachi and this kind of like a gamification value. I think that that's going to be very very strong, a very strong proposal.
Let's see. Avagochi. So so one person asked the question, okay, is Aave still covering the gas fees on Argent Wallet? Are you doing that in the first place? Is this true?
We did it for I think like a couple of months. We don't do it anymore because it's kind of like it was a trial that we wanted to help Argent, but now we don't do it anymore. So kind of like the the gas burden is now democratized equally to everyone. But yeah, that's not something that we have anymore. But that was we got a lot of new users from that, so that was definitely something that made a lot of sense to us back in days. But the gas cost is quite high that we got like very we paid a lot for gas back in the days.
Okay, all right. So with that, again, any final words, okay, that you'd like to share, okay, with the Southeast Asia community, about one person says, how do I switch my lend, if lend, okay, for Aave tokens? Is that information out yet?
It's not completely. I mean, the migration is quite simple. You basically send your tokens into a migration contract, and basically then you get the Aave tokens back. And we're trying to launch it at the same time as the staking facility. So you migrate and you can stake instantly, basically into the protocol safety module. So that allows you kind of like to earn safety incentives in Aave that basically you are providing security for the protocol. So we're trying to launch it at the very same time to bootstrap the safety module. So that's something, and probably some of the exchanges will support the swap as well. So yeah, it will be. We will make it as simple as possible.
All right. With that, again, thank you so much, Stani, okay, for joining us, okay, in Southeast Asia DeFi Week this time round. Okay, for those, okay, who have been staying all the way, okay, until the very end here, just want to, okay, remind you that, let's see, share my screen. Just want to remind you, okay, that the top 10 best questions, okay, get to win, okay, 20 ADI. If your questions, okay, was not, if your questions, if didn't have the chance, okay, to answer your questions, don't worry, okay. What happens is that you scan this QR code, fill in the feedback form, okay, ask your questions, all right, we'll consider it, okay, and then we have a judging panel, okay, and we'll select the test best questions, all right. So you need to register, okay, on Eventbrite in order to be eligible. Second, you need to fill in the feedback form. Let us know, okay, how do you find today's session? Let us know what other ways that we can improve, okay, and also do use this, okay, feedback form to put in your Ethereum wallet address, okay, of your choice, okay, so that if you are selected as the winner, we can send the prize to you. So tomorrow, okay, it's going to be very interesting. Tomorrow we're going to talk about user experience. Okay, we're going to talk about Instadapp, and we cannot not talk about Uniswap. Okay, it would be incomplete. Okay, Southeast Asia DeFi would be incomplete if we did not talk about Uniswap. So meet back here, okay, tomorrow at 3 to 5 p.m. Same time, same place. Thank you very much, Stani. Okay, it's always great to have you. I hope to have another session with you, okay, in Southeast Asia soon.
Yeah, thanks, Jason, and it was fun. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
All right. Okay. With that, see you guys tomorrow. I will post, okay, the link, okay, to the feedback form after this. Okay. In the chat, it'll be a bit.ly link. Okay. Do let us know your feedback. Fill in the feedback form. Okay. We will select, okay, the top 10 so that you stand a chance to win, okay, the 20 ADI giveaway prizes. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.